everybody.
Hi, Dr. Nick.
I just had to. There's only so many ways you can intro, but I like to keep it spontaneous. I think we've all come to the conclusion that life, especially modern life, is incredibly repetitive and monotonous. It's so weird how in the fight for better working conditions, better working hours, the reason Labor Day exists, it developed, that's where the 9 to 5 culture developed from. I really hate how people look down on 9 to 5 culture when, especially the fucking entrepreneur, middle to upper class pieces of shit who keep selling the bullshit courses to poor people. The 9 to 5 workday only came up as a result of a lot of struggle and bloodshed. It's not the 9 to 5 that's the problem. It's the having your life force extracted from you as much as possible within that time frame, right? To the point where we already know the things that are wrong, and yet do we have the steps? Do we have the commitment to take the steps involved to fix it? For the most part, no. And to a large scale, absolutely not. It's going to get a lot fucking worse than what it looks like right now. But you don't come here to hear about flowers and daisies and rainbows and candy, do you? No. So for me, and I don't know where I first saw this quote, must have been a YouTube comment section or something. It was as simple as chopping wood and carrying water. I looked it up, and it was a quote out of Zen Buddhism, which I'm not surprised, really. And it's exactly what it sounds like. Chop wood, carry water. Right? The Karate Kid kind of... In fact, probably is where Karate Kid got their wax on, wax off style of training, right? If life is gonna be monotonous, enlightenment is going to be monotonous as well. Many people, I think it's just the commercialized understanding of what nirvana is, of what enlightenment is. Like, once you get there, you'll be like a fucking 3-headed, 6-armed, like, freaking super spiritual being or something. No, that's not what it means. To do something monotonously, you can either do it with conviction or just to distract yourself. There's probably more ways you can do it, but let's just to simplify it, right? If you decided to pick up a ball and kick it with conviction, you would know the difference between if you're just kicking a ball to get your mind off of life. Because intent and motive are what drives our entire existence in this system that we live in. Intent and motive. And the thing is, most people are really shitty at figuring out other people's intentions and motives by design. Because if you could figure out the intentions and the motives of people around you, you could figure out the intentions and the motives of the people above you. Why would they want you doing that? And so you're stuck in a place where you see so many things going wrong with the world. You don't see any viable solutions, and even the ones that are being proposed are only temporary measures that are going to make things a lot worse. you want to be the not necessarily the redeemer, but you want to do something to help people, to help them get better, to help them improve their life situation, to help reduce the amount of injustice in the world. And that's a noble thing. But it's very misguided. It's very naive. And a lot of people have been brutally ended because they thought they could do that. Sure, they're martyred and we remember them and we revere them and everything they did. But like, what after that, It's like you become a means by which people can ruminate on how mediocre they are, but how superior they feel when they talk about you. Like they're doing something, but they're not really doing anything. And they'll just get back to complaining about the things that you were trying to fix. Instead of learning from you, instead of carrying the torch that you lit. That's what this world does. It takes such drastic conditions for people to actually throw off those means of control, and you just don't have that time. No one has, for other people to get up and do something, you just don't have that time. And so you have to focus inward. To have some semblance of control, you have to focus inward. You have to realize that you cannot base your success, your happiness, you can't really base anything that you value on external influences. Yeah, even the people that are close to you, you can't. Especially the people close to you, if you don't understand that they are also individuals, that's what makes it hurt so much when they do certain things or say certain things. Because you have these unspoken expectations about what certain relationships are supposed to look like. And the older I've gotten, people I used to really... I was disappointed by certain people. I was let down by them. But these days, and it just happened recently, honestly, these days, I've learned to accept them for what they are. I've learned to accept them for what they are, and they're really not necessarily... I don't know if the word is change. They're hopefully going to reveal more of themselves, right? Because maybe you were more mature than they were at the stage when you were interacting. And so you expected way more than they could provide. And that's the essence of this video. Chopping wood and carrying water, especially if you're a highly emotional being, it means you're going to have to keep being a highly emotional being. In a sense of you crafting your own routine, you controlling the flow of your own emotions. You can do any amount of acting, reading fucking Robert Greene 48 Laws of Power books, right? But you're only pretending to yourself, really. And especially if you're pretending to people who are masters at sniffing out those kinds of insecurities, you're like dangling a piece of meat in front of them. In this universe, we are ultimately receptive of everything at any given time. But how you mold it and how you shape it is completely in your hands. We condition everything about ourselves. This is why I personally don't believe in free will, because from the point that we exit the womb, every single thing we do is just conditioning ourselves to the environment around us. Sure, we might have genetic components that, maybe you might be able to walk a lot faster than other infants, or maybe talk faster, or maybe play instruments, do sports, right? Very, very early on, right? But it's all just conditioning and environment. You could be really good at those things, but if you don't have them around you, you're never really going to explore that side. You're going to explore what is present to you. So it's I'm trying to distill it in my own understanding to chop wood. I think it's more about establishing your internal presence within yourself. This might sound very like like in the clouds type of rhetoric, but it's factual. Do you know what happens inside your own mind? Do you know why your life is so monotonous and why your actions are so monotonous? Because you've conditioned yourself to do it without thinking. Your shoulders are probably tense as fuck right now. Yeah, yeah, you see? They've relaxed, yeah. See? Your jaw is all fucking tensed up for some reason. You see? See what I mean? You conditioned yourself to do that. It didn't just happen. Those muscles don't do that unless you want them to do that. Unless you've conditioned them for a number of reasons to do that. Deprogramming yourself comes hand in hand with reconditioning yourself. You can't just fucking take the red pill and all of a sudden see bots and fucking ladies in red and everything and then do nothing with it and just be like, I have the fucking red pill, the red pill's right here. Like, no one gives a shit. No one gives a fucking shit. Chopping wood and carrying water can be as simple as walking to the store every day, or changing your tire, or reading a book, or working out, of course. Or realistically, chopping wood and carrying water. But I mean, you probably don't live in like a forest. Probably, I don't know. If you're listening to this in the forest, fucking hell, you're amazing. And to me, it's more that contentment is what enlightenment is at its core. Because to be content with something, I don't think it needs to be happy with something necessarily, even though it can be interpreted that way. It means to be silent enough, to be still and silent enough to hear the universe's heart beating. It's some fucking scary shit. Don't get me wrong, it is not for the faint-hearted. When you're silent enough, nature does speak in some ways. I think nature has learned from us, honestly. Nature shows you in certain ways, like, yeah, it is paying attention. Not to say that it's like a completely sentient being, but if it's a force, and if it's a force that we create and we also shape, I don't see why nature wouldn't also try and shape us in a way that we've shaped it. If you go on like a 10-minute walk every day, but also go for a 10-minute walk in your mind every day, that's the essence of chopping wood. Now, you can chop wood, you could play chess, you could start a freaking multi-billion-dollar company from your room on your laptop. That might be how you chop wood. Find an outlet. Find an outlet that you gave yourself. Because while the title of the video is kind of jokes, it's really not. Sigma males, from everything I've watched, are people who could take the lead, but because other people are there in the lead or fighting for the lead, they can lay back. They're not anyone's follower or leader. And the key in life is to develop your own possessions, if that makes sense. For someone to hand you something, it means that they can take it away from you. If you've received, and that's why I have so much problems with the word privilege. Because if privilege is bestowed on you, it can be revoked. If you expand privilege to wider groups of people, you can revoke those privileges the same way. Right? If you learned how to draw, maybe you were taken to a really nice art school, but if you learned to draw yourself and it wasn't something in your career path, any skill actually, if you learned how to perform a skill that was not in your future, things like that will be more meaningful to you than your job or your career or a place where you have no real authority. It's those little acts of consolidating your authority that underpin finding solutions, Those steps, and it's easy enough for me to say it. I have a hard enough time following my own advice, right? Doing really small acts to and I don't say things like control, because in this world, control it's an illusion, right? But to consolidate your own authority, especially towards yourself, will present you as a person to other people who seems like they know what the fuck they're talking about, who seems like they are someone who they would not mind relinquishing some of their control to, if that's what you want to do. I think we're at the stage where we can, something small, right? People want to, it's urgent, depending on your stage where you're at, because urgency is also very important, of course. Urgency is very necessary as well. But there are things which are made urgent to us which are really not priorities to begin with. Things we could do without. So don't let anyone push you off your grind set. Don't let anyone push you off your mundane routine, especially if it's a mundane routine that you have curated for yourself. You need it. Routine is good. In fact, changing your routine is part of the routine. So if you're afraid of change, it's because you've never understood change. But it's neither good nor bad. It's a tool, like all the other ones we have.